Or is there a harmonious crossroad where both can thrive? Can we blur the lines between talent and revenue? In every episode, we provide executive leaders with 3 strategic takeaways, transformative insights that will propel you to master the delicate balance between people and profit. It's not about winners or losers, but crafting an environment where everyone triumphs. Tune in and step closer to redefining executive success.
Well, Michelle, happy birthday, first and foremost. If the audience didn't know.
Thank you. I'm finally 21, so now we can have a drink at the bar.
There we go. We can all believe that. Yeah. We all can believe that.
Yeah.
But happy birthday. So this is a special LinkedIn Live for us, celebrating your birthday. So, very honored.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. And we're changing the time too. It's also the kids' last day of school. So I have to run out and go get them at noon. So we are a little early. So we'll have to do mimosas at the bar.
Love it. Well, you might still want something stronger, because this we're doing a function face-off today, and I think this is a pretty tough topic. So I don't know how much stress I'm going to be throwing your way with this topic. So
this is a tough topic. And to our intro, I wrote it down as I was listening to the intro, because we get to hear it when we're off stage. Must it be talent or revenue that takes the hit? And I think that's going to be a thread in our conversation.
Yeah. I think that's a really good pull out right there. Is it going to be talent or revenue that's going to take a hit in our conversation today? So I'm pretty excited. Sorry?
Or must
it be? Very good point. Yep. Very. Thank you. Yep.
In between.
We'll try and find middle ground.
Yes. So everybody, welcome. I'm Michelle Strasburger. I am the CEO of HR Rebooted, where we work with CEOs to build intentional cultures to help you scale your business without losing your soul.
I'm Dominique St. Fleur, CEO of Intramark. We create a data layer on culture to allow leaders to identify hidden risks like productivity gaps and unwanted turnover. Michelle, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about gaps. No, we're talking about headwinds. Headwinds. It's all about headwinds today. I feel like that's been the topic with all my clients lately. Is there's just a lot coming at us. We've got tariffs, and I did some searching on that of like what is like an average tariff this organization might be dealing with. It could be around 25%. And there are things I think we don't think about that we're importing. Basic stuff that's getting imported. Ingredients into the foods that we eat are imported. There's a lot of things that are imported. This is affecting a lot of organizations, and I think surface level, we're thinking it's going to hurt manufacturing, right, and distribution. I think it's going to actually bleed into other organizations because costs are just going to continue to go up, and so this is probably a precursor to other things. I think other organizations are going to start feeling this. The other headwinds I think we're talking about are benefits, and I've been on a soapbox about this. Poor Dominique has had to listen to me several times, or anybody else that's heard me over the last couple of weeks. I've been going through benefits renewal with one client, and then with our HR Rebels calls, we've had a couple of benefits brokers on there talking to the Rebels about preparing for benefits renewal and things like that. And the healthcare costs just continue to rise, and it's staggering. And right now, I think healthcare costs alone. So if you're self-insured, you're probably facing this as an employer, but it's 20%, somewhere around 20%. Healthcare costs are increasing. And so in 5 years as a CEO, you're sitting on healthcare costs that are 100% more than what they are today or what they are last year. And so that's a huge headwind. So, so you're the CFO in this exercise today.
Yep.
And you're charged with managing these headwinds, and your initial response is ...
My initial response is, let's find a strong beverage at the bar to deal with this first, and then let's dive right into it. Yes, Michelle, we're at Acme Corp. Acme Corp. We're like many other organizations, we're bracing ourselves to see what the fallout with tariffs is, right? We're trying to prepare for ourselves for the long term. We're looking across the board at our cost structure and trying to find ways. How do we restructure our cost structure for the long term, not just for this year, not just trying to find things we can cut costs with. How do we rethink and restructure costs so that these costs that you've mentioned, right? If they perpetually continue to increase, we're not able to raise prices on customers to keep up with that. We're not able to, so something's got to give. So we got to think long term about this. So I went around as CFO. I spoke with the other CXOs. I spoke with our chief technology officer. We looked at a lot of the software systems tools we're using. We're doing initiatives there to cut costs there or be more optimized. I spoke to other CXOs and heads of departments, and we're having similar conversations now. We set up this meeting. It's a tough meeting, so we're having it at the bar, but wanted to talk about the people side. How can we look at our workforce? People are our biggest investment as an organization, but we want to make sure that we manage costs there as well. So I think one area that I'd love to start with, if we have time, we'll bleed into some other areas around people. But where I want to start with, to your point, Michelle, is medical benefits, and benefits in general, rising at a clip that's unsustainable for most of our organizations. Right now at Acme Corp, we're generous. We cover 100%, medical benefits. We're a little bit unusual from other organizations that may cover it 80, 70%, whatever it may be. We're super generous, but we want to kind of manage this long term. So I want to reimagine benefits. So I want to come to the table and pretend we're doing this for the first time, starting with medical benefits. I want to give you the floor on where you think we should start, but I have a few ideas that I think in my mind are radical. But I want to see where you want to start.
Well, let's hear your radical ideas. I love radical ideas.
Okay, all right. So the first one's not so radical, but I think as a starting point in getting to some of the more radical ones that I want to get your opinion on is, I think the best expense is the expense that you don't need to have in the first place. And so, where I want to first tackle this is preventative care. What is our organization doing to promote and make sure we educate the workforce and also track whether or not our employee, and track is used loosely, right? There's privacy concerns, but how do we make sure, as best as we can, employees, all of our employees, ideally, are taking full advantage of preventative care? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of organizations offer this, or pretty much any benefits programs offers this, but I don't think we do a good job currently in making sure we're driving that home consistently and often. Mm-hmm. And the benefits there is healthy employees show up for, are able to show up. They're sick less often. That's great. Also, being able to catch chronic illnesses early helps us manage costs, as well, and premium increases. So I think, what are we doing with benefits? Preventative care. How are we tracking that? How do we know that we're getting the best ROI in making sure that we're driving that? That's, let's start there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good timing. It's June, right? And we have a 1/1 renewal, and so it's good that we're being a little bit more proactive. I think you're right. I don't think this is a time to be reactive and start pulling things away. I think we have to think creatively around how do we make sure that our employees are using the best parts of their benefits that will actually, in the long run, be less costly for us. So I think we need to pull in our broker and think of creative ways of, like, what is our long-term strategy? Our goal is to continue to offer competitive benefits, more than competitive, because we offer today. And with 20% rise in costs, if we just keep pulling things off the table, employees keep feeling like we just keep taking things away and not replacing things. So are there ways we can shift the mindset and build a strategy of like, this is where we want to be in 5 years, right? To combat this cost, because this is not a today problem. This is an ongoing problem. And I think you and I were looking at charts since 1987, was it? 1983. That medical costs have gone up 727%. So this isn't even an issue that we're talking about that's fresh or new. We're not even being rebellious in this conversation.
We're quite conservative.
I think what other organizations do is that they just they get a number, right? We might be expecting something else because all year we don't hear the claims, we don't track the claims, we don't really know what's going on. If you're self-insured, you have more exposure to that, which is great, so that you can say, okay, this is where we're trending. More people are using emergency rooms. Let's get them out of emergency rooms and into primary care visits and things like that. But a lot of times we wait until we get the renewal quote and then we go, what? And you have sticker shock. And then it's reactionary. Let's quote it out. Let's price it out. Let's change the provider, change this, change that, pull things out of the plan, increase the deductible, increase the costs. Benefits really should be just like your people. You need to have a people strategy, and your benefits should be a piece of that. And so, like, what is our strategy over the next 5 years? If we want to continue to pay 100% of benefits, knowing we're going to have 100% increase in the next 5 years, how are we going to make that happen? And I think there's some creative things we can do in the marketplace. One, I think, to your point, let's focus on proactive things. There's, primary care things we can do. Can we incentivize people to do their regular checkups? I know there are insurance companies that do that already. If you go for your regular mammogram or other health screenings or things like that, they give you money back. And so, but just knowing that that's there for your benefit is huge. Could you do that as an employer? Yes. Talk to your broker about what your options are there. If you're self-insured, that's easier to track and know that. And that would be something that would be done within HR. I think there's also a lot of like very creative programs out there right now, especially on the proactive side. I work very closely with a broker called Cross Insurance. So plug to Cross, my friend Tony Cabana. They offer all of their clients this platform called Restore. And there's 3 different platforms, and it's a health coaching platform. So there's Restore Health, there's Restore Resilience, and Restore Balance. And so health is for health. Restore Resilience is for mental health, and Restore Balance is for women's health. And so all of the employees that they work with get access to this platform as part of their benefits package. And it's great because you get a real life coach. You get to set goals, so that meets the employee where they're at, and they work on whatever those goals are throughout the year. So if my goal is to sleep better, they help me with that. If my goal is to lose weight, they help me with that. But everybody's goal is different because what I need to be healthy is different than what you need to be healthy. It doesn't cost the employer anything more than that, but it's a great benefit to offer. And so partnering up and like linking arms with your broker, because they may have services that you can focus on, like that are more preventative and wellness focused, to help drive down the cost so that you can, like you said, early detection, early prevention is key and important. Like my father, is a great example. He's 67 this year. And he had a heart attack in November. He's vegetarian. He is active. He's a carpenter, like does all the right things. And he had a heart attack. And so, are there things, like some things you can't figure out. He's fine, but some things you can't, but for a lot of people, he's probably on the fringe. He has to be the odd man out. But for most people, are there things that you can do to get them to focus on more of the preventative things? And I would also say, I think as part of that strategy, we have to figure out how to communicate. You and I can speak benefits language because we understand it, but not everybody can. Not everybody understands it. Not everybody lives it every day. And we put benefits out there and say, choose. And then employees don't really know what they're getting into until they go to the doctor and have a service, until there's an emergency, until are they having a baby, until something happens right in their life where they need to use the benefit. And then they're like, I don't know what's going on. And so they're not maybe using it to the best that it can be used as well. So I think you need to have a educational series, a communication strategy that goes along with this kind of 5-year plan of where we want to be with our benefits. So now is not the time to react. It's the time to kind of strategize. I know CFO, you want to save costs today.
No. I think
help long term.
No, I think, I'm looking at cost today, cost midterm, cost long term, right? I'm open to making investments across the board, not either or, but all. You hit it on the head. That's exactly what I'm thinking as CFO. Is I want to show that my medical expenses within the workforce that at Acme Corp is going down year over year. Right. And it's not because people aren't using the benefits. It's more because we're investing in preventative care more than anything else. And so if we can see costs going down, we could justify lower premiums over time and so on and so forth. And that kind of leads to some of my more interesting ideas on if we could get this to a certain point. And I'll introduce this idea a little bit, but to re-emphasize, 100%, right? It's strategic to have a proactive program around medical needs and benefits, not just offer it, because it could be offered all day, but if employees don't understand it, they don't know about it, or we just assume the employees reading all these documents, especially during onboarding, right? They're inundated with documents, right? A lot of employees don't know. And so if they're encouraged, and if there's a lot of thought that's given to encouraging preventative care as a regular lifestyle routine, that's where I want to start. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. Let's check the box. We're going to invest in, more preventative care processes. It shouldn't cost a ton. It should be a minimal investment relative to the benefit that we'll get long term, but we're going to stay consistent in that. So, that's a good one. Anything else to add on that one? Preventative care.
A lot of benefit providers too. So like the Anthems of the world and Cigna and things like that. They have on the fully insured plans, they have wellness dollars that you can capture, and they'll pay you the money or reimburse you to do these plans and put them in place. And so if it's incentivizing people to go for preventative care, they already have a pocket of money and they build that into the cost of your plan. Like, take advantage of that. It's not going to cost us any extra to have these things in place. So we could take advantage of that. And I really do think education is huge, because a lot of times we'll go to our doctor, and our doctors, because they also, like us, have a lot of things on their plate, and they only get 7 minutes with us, and then they're on to the next person. And that's not a really long time to diagnose something. I mean, as leaders in organizations, we might take weeks to process something and make a decision, right? And the doctor has to do it in 7 minutes. And so there are times where you go to the doctor and they say, you just need surgery, right? And maybe you do, right? But educating employees on how they can advocate for themselves, how they can get a second opinion, maybe how they can even shop the maybe they need an MRI, maybe they need surgery, like shop it and go find out where you can get the best surgery for the least cost, because it's going to be, you have to pay deductible most likely as the employee, right? But the employer has to pay a portion of that as well. So, there are great systems out there that can help. There's concierge systems, there's case management within healthcare. All that stuff kind of exists already in our plans. We just have to teach people how to take advantage of it. And I think a lot of things we teach people is very surface level. Yeah. And how to, educating people how to dive in and really understand the plan so that their health is really taken care of, and that they have the tools in their tool belt to manage their health and be proactive about it. Even in a situation where the doctor's saying, you need surgery, they have the tools to say, are there other options? What else could I do?
Yep. Yeah. The education piece, and, adding to that, the consistency of, delivering that education and communication is, I think, where a lot of organizations can do better. It's about that consistency of that messaging and delivering that education over time. That's going to drive preventative care and the sorts. So we've got the preventative care bucket. We agreed that we're going to invest in, having a consistent long-term messaging an education program around preventative care. We're really going to hone in. We're going to track, more. We're going to encourage and incentivize more engagement with preventative care as a great strategy. And again, where we're missing today is that consistency and education throughout. So bucket number one. To go to your point about doctors, I think another pain point that I think long term, if we could, get this plan going, get a good preventative care. Of course, we're not, expenses are going to happen. People are going to need surgery or stuff like that. But if we could get it to a point where it's more manageable and more predictable, now then my question becomes accessibility, right? I think one thing a lot of people don't like, about getting preventative care or going to the doctor in general is the experience, right? Booking booking an appointment, that whole process, the wait times, whatever it may be. And so the next piece I want to kind of tackle is more of a two-phase strategy of bringing it in-house, bring accessibility in-house. So at a previous employer, or when I was, working for another or corporation, they had a clinic on site. Of course, it's a bigger organization, but they had their own doctor's office. They had their own, clinic, and you could get healthcare on site. And it was captive. It was owned by the organization. What are your thoughts on two things? One, making sure that we have a robust telemedicine virtual care so that people don't have to go to, ERs when it's not necessary. Again, that's an expense that is, making it very accessible as kind of like a first stop, telemedicine, promoting that. But also, should we have a staff of doctors or, of our own? Acme Corp, we're a pretty large organization. Should we have a clinic on site that employees can come to? We can manage the experience of going to a doctor for ourselves and for employees. And I think long term, that should help our expense, because we could have those offerings and really pair it well with preventive care and also offer, a lot of that care on site. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. I think we should do some searching on it, and maybe we can poll the employees. Let's use Vive and do some polls on the employees and see if they would actually take advantage of it, because sometimes people want that separation of like, I don't want my boss knowing I'm going to the doctor. So if it's in a place where it's visible, that might be an issue, but I think that would be an option we poll them. There's other options too, where, like I think One Medical in some of the more metropolitan areas, you can contract with them and they like you pay a fee for the whole year and you can go see them as many times as you want. You get telemedicine. I think you get telemedicine. Yep. I'm not a commercial for them, so I'm not sure if I'm getting it right, but you get all the things, and you have access to this doctor. And I had a friend that did it when it wasn't One Medical, but it was a doctor that he had. I thought he was wacky. Like he came to me and he's like, I'm going to pay $5,000 for the year to see this doctor. And I'm like, what are you doing? And this was years ago. This is like probably before Clayton was born. It was probably 14 or 15 years ago. But now it's like, I think it's a brilliant idea. Like, I'm going to pay this. I get to see the person whenever. I can email them if I have a question, because access to medical doctors is really hard, especially in rural areas. We've had doctors up here in northern New Hampshire that have just closed their doors and we don't know how to find another doctor. I've been trying for a year to find a doctor, and I got a new doctor. And before I even got to see that doctor, because the wait time is so long, she had left the practice. So now I'm in line again to see another doctor. And, I'm getting older, but I'm younger enough that it's not like that big of a deal. But, I think access is something really huge. And if we can address that for employees at a low cost or a lower cost, that would be huge. And that's something we can bring our brokers into, to have the conversation of like, what would this actually look like and how would this actually work within the organization? I know a lot of organizations too have nursing on site, and maybe that's a place to start, and we can start to see, right? Start small and then iterate and make it better. Still, maybe start with nursing on site and have a paid nurse working in the office, so people can go if they're not feeling well or they just need a break or something's going on. But that might be a place to start and see if that gets utilized.
Exactly. I mean, schools have on-site nurses. We companies should too, or more companies should too as well. So, I think where my head's at, and thanks for mentioning, services like One Medical. Those are very, very. I used to be a user of One Medical. Those are very, very good options where, again, there's more transparency on what is the health experience, right? What is the experience around going to a doctor, booking, an appointment? That friction is part of the reason why, preventative care is just not taken more advantage of. It's the hassle of doing all of that. So if we can make that more frictionless, either by partnering with a One Medical or taking part of it, in house by having someone on site or a clinic, just kind of out in the cut, but on site, then I think controlling that experience itself will be super helpful.
Yeah, I think so. I think the overall thought is like, you don't have to shop your plan or rip your plan apart or charge people a ton of money. I think you can get, like, let's just throw it all out there and get creative and bring the broker in. If they're a good broker, you've been having these conversations probably all year or the last couple of years. Have those conversations with them. And I think we will in the next couple of weeks have a broker on here with us to kind of talk about some different plans, because there's also plan designs you can do with HRAs and captives and things like that can help become a longer term strategy on reducing costs as well.
Absolutely. I think this is a good starting point. And, I think, when we have some guests on the broker side, I'd love to, we'll dive deeper into this to get some longer call. It's a big topic, it's something that's on top of mind for a CFO. And it's about how do you think about this more long-term and strategically, and figure out what are the pain points, right? What is really driving costs, right? And so it's something that we'll dig into in a future session much deeper.
Yeah. I think the other big cost for us at Acme Corp is our compensation model. And I don't want to take things away, but are there ways that we can change our compensation model to actually incentivize people? So both, what did we say before? Must it be talent or revenue that takes the hit? Instead of taking the hit, can we use it to be an accelerator? Can we use it to incentivize people and actually see results? And so instead of having our annual merit increase and our annual performance review, and can we just shake it up and like transform our compensation model? Again, not taking anything away, but to really drive performance and have a really stronger pay for performance model so that people are energized and we're getting things done. Because the moment you start taking things away, they lose the energy. But are there ways we can kind of put some energy back in the system to then drive more revenue?
I think we're setting the stage for a series here around managing these costs in more creative ways. Mm-hmm. We started with medical benefits, but we're going to continue that topic for sure. But we've got some other areas that we can touch on. I think it's a big meaty topic.
It is a meaty topic, so we have to have it to be continued.
Absolutely. Well, happy birthday, Michelle. Enjoy the day. Thank you so much for sharing part of your birthday with us. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a Absolutely. Fun part of my day. Take care, everyone.
You've just experienced another episode of The CXO and CHRO Walk into a Bar, where we share insights at the intersection of talent and revenue. Thank you for joining us. Please join us next week at noon Eastern for more strategic content to help you scale your business. You can follow us on LinkedIn and on YouTube for additional content or episodes you may have missed. The links will be in the comments section. If you'd like more information or to schedule time with Michelle or Dominique, follow the link in the comments section to book time on their calendar. Until next week, cheers.